Hello and welcome to this week's Midweek Mini. I'm your host, Andrea. Imagine entrusting your very own sister with taking care of your two small kids while you take care of your own mental health, only to never see your kids alive again. That's what happened to a mom in Maryland just recently, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Triple M Studios proudly presents Midweek Mini, and here's your host, Andrea Lee.
Alright, y'all, this is a sad story, and I just felt like it needed to be talked about. I try to keep it a little upbeat here, but there's some things that you just have to talk about that's not always pleasant or happy. So, back in July of 2019, Deshelle Johnson moved from Ohio to Maryland, and she asked her sister, 33-year-old Nicole Michelle Johnson, to take care of her kids because she couldn't at the time. After she dropped the two kids off with Michelle, Deshelle says that she tried many times to get in touch with her, but she couldn't. Well, finally in March of this year, she got in touch with her, and they made arrangements to have Michelle drop off her kids. But Michelle and the kids never showed up, and since then, she hadn't been able to reach her. Well, fast forward to the end of July of this year, and Michelle gets pulled over for speeding around 11 p.m. on July the 28th. In the process, they find out she has no license or insurance, and the temporary tag on the car was fake. Officers told her that they were going to have to impound her car and that she needed to show up to the district court in 5 days, but Michelle responds by telling them, "It don't matter, I won't be here in 5 days." She also said, "Y'all going to see me on the news. Y'all going to see me on the news making my big debut." But she went to retrieve some items out of the trunk of her car, including a maggot-filled clear trash bag. And when that happened, they noticed a very strong smell of decomposition. And there was also a black and yellow plastic tote in the trunk. Well, officers asked her to open that trash bag, and when she did, they saw it contained a suitcase. Michelle said that it only had a blanket in it, but they asked her to remove the blankets, and that's when the other content of the suitcase was revealed. Officers saw the decomposing body of a small child. Well, Michelle tried to run away from the scene, but they quickly caught her. And then officers opened the tote and found a plastic bag that held the decomposing remains of another small child. The two children that were found have been identified as siblings, 7-year-old Jocelyn Johnson and 5-year-old Larry O'Neill. An autopsy is being done to determine the exact cause of death, and authorities say that this can take, a good bit of time, but so far they do know that the 7-year-old weighed only 18 pounds and the 5-year-old weighed only 21 pounds. Michelle told officers that she had struck the little girl several times for misbehaving, and it caused her to lose her balance, and she fell. Well, according to Michelle, when Jocelyn fell, she hit her head on the floor, causing the child's death. Michelle then put the child's body into the suitcase and drove around with it in her car for over a year. Yes, over a year. And as far as Larry's cause of death, according to Michelle, she says she saw blood on his leg back in May, and soon after that he said he was tired and he fell asleep and he never woke up. She placed his body in that tote that they had found and then placed it in the trunk of her car beside his sister. Michelle has been charged with 2 counts each of first-degree felony child abuse, first-degree felony child abuse resulting in death, misdemeanor neglect of a minor, misdemeanor failure to report the death of a child, and the unauthorized burial of a body as a misdemeanor. Now, she's currently being held without bail or bond, and they do have a preliminary hearing scheduled for August the 27th. Now, I'm trying to refrain from saying too much as far as my opinion about all this, because Michelle is actually innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And maybe I shouldn't say actually innocent, maybe considered innocent would be a better choice of words. But the odds of her being innocent, just from the evidence that they found and what she told the authorities, those odds are stacked against her. Now, I also found that she's being represented by a public defender, and he's not returning phone calls like to any of the media that's reached out to him. Now, I can't even imagine the pain that their mom, Deshelle, is feeling, and she's got to feel betrayed too. She trusted her sister to take care of her kids. Now, I always wonder why, when people are riding around with drugs or something else illegal in their car, or like in this case, it's the deceased body of your niece, or bodies of your niece and nephew, why do people like speed around or do something else to be pulled over by the police? It just seems like to me that you'd be the most careful driver on the streets if you're riding dirty, I guess you could say. It makes absolutely no sense. And how in the world do you tolerate the smell that had to be so heavy in that car by then? It's believed that the little girl was actually killed in May of 2020. And she had been in the car since then. And why hadn't anybody else smelled it? I mean, it gets hot there in the summertime. I don't know how anybody didn't smell that, like, radiating from the car. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, seems like somebody else should have smelled it. But there's just a lot of unanswered questions to this case. But hopefully when it goes to trial, most of those, if not all of those questions, will be answered. And I'll definitely be updating on this as like new information comes out about it. It's still fairly a relative new case, so not much has been released or revealed. But anyway, that's all I have for today's episode. Don't forget to come back Saturday for the Weekend Weird Files. And this weekend's episode is pretty interesting. Y'all have a good rest of your week, and I'll talk to you on Saturday.